This is the full VOD of the matchup between G2 and BLG. Let's dive into the picks and bans.
Lost that game, and for G2 that clutch factor didn't come through against T1, a game that they could have won. Those Baron steals, the epic team fights, the great plays from T1. But here we are, we jump into draft. Let's see what the priorities are. Ahri taken away from Knight, makes a lot of sense. The Ashe taken away as well. Aurora and Yone, the typical red side bans that we often see here at Worlds. Now G2, what else are they thinking about on the blue sides?
Do they want to continue? Orianna Nocturne has been the name of the game. This is a combo that's been talked about by every single team, but G2 consistently prioritizing it.
Nico. Okay. I mean, of course, Nico flexible between both mid and bot. It does look like G2 setting themselves up for the Orianna once more. We'll see what the priority pick will be as BLG round out their ban phase. Nocturne, Vi, Kalista. That's going to be the final ban taken away from G2. They've shown a priority for this champion.
Of course, I think in the context of the meta, Kalista in general, secures lane prio. If you don't have enough sustained damage, you see those Randuin's builds where she just becomes unkillable. Orianna will be the option. BLG can take away a Nocturne if they want to, but the downside of this prioritization is a champion like Vi, who has been incredibly impactful. The Skarner, a lot of the more conventional...
You've left the Jax open for Bin. One
I'll
of his huge comfort picks.
And against T1, the Bin Jax wasn't there. It wasn't enough. But in the previous series, it was Bin Jax all the way. And it feels like when he's rising up, he's been performing. That level is something that you just... I mean, can you really contend with it? We saw last year in the Elimination Series, Ben got the better of BB in just about every single game, and now you've given him his comfort.
Well, G2 will likely answer it with something like a Gnar or the Poppy. So far, Broken Blade has played 5 different champions across the Swiss stage. I wonder if we'll bring out something new today, but instead, as you rightly said, Nocturne is the expected jungle pick here. They could also go for something like the Vi, but it looks like they're going to stick with the approach that they brought against T1. In Game 2 is where we saw them finding great fights, big advantages, opportunities to turn the game in their favor. But in Game 1, this strategy didn't really work out for them.
The Gragas, of course, was a big part of that.
Of course.
They're not as scared now that the Gragas is there. Of course, and after that first game, it was the Skarner they banned away. So it's not like they haven't given up power picks, but maybe they feel the angle is a little better this time. Gnar now locked in, Knight debating what he wants to go for. And Betty, we've talked about this before, Sylas. You know, Knight has so many iconic picks, but obviously Sylas is a champion that, especially against the Gnar, the Nocturne, the Orianna, has so much playmaking potential.
It certainly does. I think the Sylas has a lot of great ultimates to steal here, but he's hovering. And it's going to be the LeBlanc. We look at his career all-time. LeBlanc is definitely one of his most played with 36 games, only hovering around a 55% win rate, which, when you think about Knight with how many incredible win rates he has with things like Syndra and Ahri, is a little surprising to see. We'll see how this one pans out, because typically Skarner and LeBlanc is not a duo that you often associate, but against an Orianna, it can be a very effective matchup. Hell, we even saw it from Showmaker earlier in the day in our first series of the matchup, so it can definitely be strong, especially in side lanes, where we saw how Cap struggle to get farm in the side lanes because G2 wasn't probably setting him up to get that farm. And if Knight is left isolated, look at this 1-3-1 that BLG are already setting up for themselves.
And it's one of the downsides that's been called out about the way the G2 are drafting, right? Yes, Orianna is powerful, but it doesn't give the same side lane agency as a champion like the Ahri or LeBlanc will. Maybe limiting one of the strongest points on the map for them, but have to hope the Orianna will be enough. And you said it, the LeBlanc. We saw the Nocturne comp really struggle against T1, partially because of Gragas, partially because there really just wasn't a good target for the Nocturne to jump on. LeBlanc's certainly not bad, but is so slippery that if the follow-up isn't there, it's just not going to work out. Poppy ban.
Good ban.
Taken away from Mickey. I think good respect ban obviously blocks the first half of Distortion as well as the Jack Sleep.
I wonder if G2's thinking about a Kai'Sa right now. BLG could consider an Ezreal. I quite like their ability to play with poke, right? LeBlanc later on into the game becomes this great poke champion, and G2's going to pan that one away. So Xayah and Ezreal taken off the boards.
Interesting. Now, BLG really get their pick of the litter here. Do they want to go for something more team fight focused? MF would certainly be vulnerable against this G2 composition and combo. Kai'Sa would be more safe, and that will be the option. And it's an awkward position because you don't want to give the Ezreal up, but Kai'Sa was traditionally a pretty good answer into that same Ezreal. Now the question is, what are they going to prioritize? Draven, we saw, couldn't really get through the front line of T1. Maybe they feel a little bit better in the context of this draft, but AD carry pool has been limited very heavily. The Draven itself already taken away.
You know, like, a part of me feels like they're going to do something like Twitch or Cogmore.
We wanted to see them.
Okay, MF, they're going for the MF. That's fine. I think it's very like team fight driven, which is very much what that comp is leading towards. Does look like it's going to be a rel. They might go for Leona if they want a little bit more guaranteed lockdown with the Q that Leona brings with the instant stun.
Sure. And of course, it's not really the best Merc Treads team to play up against. So many of the CC tools just don't interact with tenacity. But Rel still remains this incredibly powerful playmaker. Leona has a little bit less hard committal in terms of the CC because she can ulti and is often a little bit tankier early on. But BLG may look for the Alistar here. Really lackluster first couple of levels, but as you go later in the game, can be such a nuisance to deal with.
Yeah, it does imply that BLG is considering a lane swap. The bot lane 2 versus 2 here could be very difficult for them to execute, but BLG have great side lane threats. I think that they've got very solid poke as well, especially when Kai'Sa starts building out that AP. She's going to be this long-range threat that can just chip away your HP bars. G2 have strong, hard committal engage thanks to the Nocturne ultimate and the Rel. The Wombo combo kind of speaks for itself. You can see the highlight reel in your head, but it's a question of will they be able to enact it when there's so much mobility on the side of BLG. You've got Jax's jump, you've got the you've got the interruption and interference from the Alistar, Kai'Sa's ultimate, LeBlanc W. There's a lot of mobility on the side of BLG to give them agency to navigate their way around these team fights.
There is, and it puts you in a position where if BLG get ahead, if they are able to establish that side lane pressure you talked about, if G2 has to enter these objectives blind, their comp becomes not impossible, but certainly very, very difficult to execute.
I think the biggest thing about this is it is, of course, best of 3, first game. This is going to be very telling because BLG on Bin, if G2 can beat Bin's Jax, then that's huge in terms of confidence and momentum.
Yeah.
However, you could just have reality come crashing down on you as it's Bin's Jax.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, Vedius. I'm doing everything I can in my power not to have a panic attack right now. As two EU pundits casting this, we're always going to do our best. We're going to represent both sides. This is 2 incredible stories from 2 incredible leagues. But on a personal, emotional level, I am a very scared boy when it comes to LEC representation at this tournament. That said, BLG, certainly a worthy contender, a team that has been rising up despite a somewhat questionable start. A lot of that we heard in an interview with Wei, talking about, hey, they didn't quite have the right read on the meta. And it's certainly developed, we've seen over the last few series. Bin's Jax prowl remains there, but his individual performance has stepped up. Knight and Elk both with tools between the LeBlanc and the Kai'Sa to really take over these fights. And again, you just read the nameplates. Knight, Elk, Kai'Sa, LeBlanc. You can't afford anything less than your best if you're playing for G2 right now.
And in that PSG series, I really feel like Elk and Bin really stepped up. In the deficits that they found themselves in when the things were getting a little bit shaky, it was thanks to Bin's fantastic flanks, it was thanks to Elk's incredible team fighting that they were able to turn that series around. Then, of course, in Game 2, they were able to dominate their opposition. So I think you have to keep track of their impact in the team fights, and we'll see if we get to see a lot more from Knight in this game on the LeBlanc, because a lot of poke threats, a lot of individual agency. When you kind of look at the low mobility side of an Orianna and an MF, there's great opportunities here as we are initiating the lane swap. This is something we talked about in the draft. The ward will be spotted out, cleansed out, and Broken Blade now making his way towards the mid lane.
Spot him here. Not going to go over the wall with the blast cone. Don't want to risk anything. Of course, no surprise to anyone watching from home that G2 versus BLG is our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. Look, first seeds, both teams. No one expected them in the 2-2 slot. But they were also here last year, so maybe we were the fools all along. Maybe this is the inevitable rematch. And could it really end any other way for one of these squads? It's a lot of tension. Single best of 3 deciding whether or not you'll be continuing to a tournament or flying home.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that BLG spent the entire summer finding success with Wei, and then they brought out Shun here halfway through the Swiss stage, just goes to show the difficulties and challenges that BLG have been facing here at the Swiss stage of the World Championship. When so much of the conversation was how Wei kind of changed the roster, made them more complete, gave them way more options, to then bring in Shun was definitely a huge surprise. And in contrast, G2 set these high expectations around their mid-game approach, and against T1, we saw them getting dominated in the mid-game with those superstar plays that we saw from T1.
Definitely was the case. Now we keep our eyes on this dive. Bin getting locked up. Level 2 is there. Counter-Strike available to stop any more damage. Get that Jax low. Bin for now feeling relatively comfortable. On coming in with the level 2. Waiting in the brush, knowing he's invisible. Headbutt pulverize. Ignite now ticking. Bin coming over the wall, like the spell shield out, and they slow that initial jungle path. It's a small advantage, but Shun happy to be that much quicker on the clear.
I mean, Bin wasn't punished in the dive. He's able to soak up a lot of the experience. Jun also able to steal away the full top side of G2's jungle camps. Jun can now hover around mid. Look at the wave state, not ideal for Caps.
Blanc. Suppression into the wall. Shane now follow up. Caps is just a dead man. Clean first blood coming in from BLG. Beautifully played around the mid lane.
A very effective gank from Shun. Caps holds on to his flash, thinking he can find the outplay, but the chain CC from both the LeBlanc and the Skarner was enough to secure first blood. It doesn't go on to the LeBlanc, which would have been ideal for BLG, but still, they'll take it. Get the early TP out from Caps.
We'll see. Shun wants to use this lead to go for something like the Heart Steal. Perhaps a more conservative choice, but already getting mid lane off to a good start. So impactful. Yes, Orianna is that big alt one-button champion, but we mentioned side lane already, and Knight having an individual lead just makes it pretty impossible for Caps to play the 1v1, but with Knight not having recalled yet, Caps trying to take an opportunity to bully while they're on relatively even items.
Exactly, like Knight just taking these trades though, remember he can TP.
It's just extra credit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he comes back, oh, you're at 50% HP, I'm full, I've got my pots,
Exactly.
I've got my items. So even trades are losing trades for Caps.
Yeah,
but
that's
you can
why
see,
Yike has to come mid, exactly.
Yeah, all he cares about is getting this wave in. Maybe he can get that free reset.
Knight's still playing very aggressively. Caps will miss the cannon there as well. So just insult to injury in favor of Knight. Reset's gonna have to come through for Caps. Knight does have that experience advantage. You can see the half a level. Knight looking, is he sticking around for another? I mean, I guess he can afford to stick around for another wave, knowing that he does have that TP available. This wave is going to push very slowly, because LeBlanc only level 5, of course.
Yep.
But the crucial thing
level 5 Doran's ring,
yeah,
you know, not a lot there yet.
So Caps, he's going to lose out on a couple creeps. Good play there from Knight, really maximizing the advantage he's going to get off the back of that play. I wonder if he even needs to expend the TP here, but regardless, he will have it available to him. Caps going to lose out on 4 CS there. So that's a full level disadvantage he now finds himself in. Now Shun, hovering around the bot side of the map.
Mickey, with Q taking his time on, just waiting in the brush there.
The swaps have come back through as well, so Elk now back on the bot side of the
Spotting,
map.
they want Hansama. Nice knock up onto the initial engage coming from Mickey. 5 stacks in the plasma. Instantaneous shattering strike on a 2 from Mickey, but he's going to go down as well. Flash in from Elk to finish. BLG, 2 kills on the board, only 5 minutes into this game.
And look at the wave state as well. Hansama in dire straits as Elk and On can allow this wave to push in. Hansama can't afford to farm. And Mickey gets punished in the play. Great stuff from Shun already in this early game, taking quick leads for BLG.
Shun, the on performance as well. 2 key components of any team strategy, jungle and support, but both of them able to find those early plays, get those small advantages, now snowballing further ahead as Broken Blade might be in a solid position. Bin, false sense of security here, doesn't have vision in the brush, but it's only a level 5 Gnar and a level 4 Nocturne. Pings into the brush, anticipating that Yike is there. So Broken Blade gonna get a bit of a positive trade because Bin knows he can't step too far forward, but nothing else gonna come from Yike spending that time. Does, however, give priority access to the Grubs. Don't have a wave in their favor topside, but they do know that Bin is chunked out. So starting off the objective here.
Notice as well, Elk making his way down alongside Shun and On. The first Grub will go down. So perhaps some wasted time here for Elk, especially as 2 Grubs secured. I think G2 can be happy with that. Knight gonna make his way over, level 6 secured as well for Caps.
G2 trying to back up, make sure that BLG can't get any exit kills. Unfortunate that they can't grab the crab, but good recognition from Yike and G2 to realize, hey, BLG are on the move. We cannot stick around for the 3rd Grub. Very likely would have meant death. Shun, Knight, Elk, everyone really in the area.
Bot wave is a bit awkward for Bin. He's not going to get there in time, but I mean, it's still a stacked wave frozen just underneath his tower. Knight can now set up a nice freeze around mid as well. This bot wave, or sorry, this top wave rather, will push towards Hansama and Mickey, so they should be able to catch that one out. But you just look at the bottom of your screen and you can see advantages across the crucial carries for BLG. Knight has about a half a level advantage still. In the bottom lane, Kai'Sa, thanks to that early not first blood, but early kill, gives him about a 450 gold lead. Interestingly, they actually swapped Hansama over to mid, and they're going to have Caps catch that top wave to try and get him back into the game a little bit more. A huge stacked wave.
Importantly, it stopped Knight from recalling. They were able to interrupt the recall and then forcing the wave in. Does mean that he's a little bit behind in terms of presence on the map. Shouldn't matter too much as Bin is already pushing that bot wave in, so really tough for G2 to potentially contest the Drake at this point. Both teams probably a bit more focused about the 3-minute second Grub spawn that is just around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that both teams heavily prioritizing those grubs, as you mentioned, and the respawns are going to be super important. But because they're a ways away, right now it just seems like the goal of each team is to just catch these waves, continue to farm up, get those crucial core items.
Yike now ticking over to level 6. Obviously the moment where Nocturne really feels like he comes online. G2 shouldn't really have an angle to contest here, likely to just concede this Drake. BLG, as we get later into the game, again, Bin is going to be such a difficult problem to manage, essentially, as the Jax has more items under his belt. Sometimes when you have that late game scaling hyper carry, deal with this champion. But Han Sama on the MF, pretty hard to just 1v1 a Jax in any given fight.
Broken Blade's doing pretty well. He was able to get that additional support from Yike on the top side to deny Bin a bit of farm. I like what On has been doing in the laning phase, though. Like his early plays on the bot side, 2 versus 2, working with Shun to deny Han Sama a lot of farm. Now again in the top side, every time Mickey goes missing, he puts that pressure down. And he's been doing a good job of just helping Elk extend his lead even further. Now Shun looks for a gank bot lane.
Broken Blade in trouble. Bin already popping the ulti. Megan where's this going to go? Nice wall up, leap forward, knocks him back in. Crucially, Shun missing the ultimate. Broken Blade likely still going to fall here. Bin tanky, but doesn't want to risk taking another shot. Good survive. Now the counterplay coming in on the top side. G2 know they can get aggressive. Spotted On leaving the lane, so try to get something done onto Elk. Will at least get the cleanse.
Caps is making his way up towards top as well. Elk knows that he's within dive range. Bin will be able to get a plate, maybe a second one. Bit of extra gold funneled into him. As Knight goes back to base with no TP, Elk is going to be denied a lot of farm. So a good trade from Hans and Mickey gives that advantage, meaning that Elk will be denied some CS. And knowing that Yike is around the top side of the map, given the bot side play that Shun tried to make, Elk has to be respectful. On though, with the level 6, should be able to provide that peel. Mickey very close to level 6. He'd love to get this before his base, but he's not going to.
And really crucially needs it for the next grub spawn. Difference in level 6 has decided so many fights at this tournament. As Knight once again in a position to try and cancel Caps, but it doesn't feel like he needs to take the risk. Knows that Caps is going to be forced to TP back if he wants to contest.
Yeah, it already feels like the atmosphere in the studio is very tense. There are obviously a lot of G2 fans here, but we know that with the early advantage BLG have gotten, it hasn't snowballed out of control just yet. We talked a lot about how they have these 2 great side lane threats. Knight already on the roam. Mickey gonna be spotted level 5.
To level 9 of the LeBlanc. He's gonna lose a lot of health just for walking into river there. At least knows that BLG have committed lots of members in the area. Maybe they're thinking that Broken Blade
Still on
can
level
push.
6, as you mentioned, Dracos. He needs to get some experience. That mid wave is gonna disappear though.
There are no completed items on either side, so it really just is about level discrepancies. Ultimate cooldowns. Yike can get into the pit. BLG need all 3 if they want the 4-grub buff. G2 trying to poke, but this is such a difficult fight for them to play out. They've got Elk on the flank, and they're not doing anything about it. Mickey now going in, but it's not going to connect onto anybody. The Q initially going to hit Knight, but Mickey just getting 1 pop. Now finally the follow-up coming in. Knight might be in trouble. They're forcing the flash out, at least initially. Ulti going over the pit, but it's a scattered fight from G2. Caps doesn't have any mana, but now Broken Blade is here. Instantly punted right back, though. Not interested in taking that one. Shockwave to help secure. Grubs down at the very least. 3-3 there, but a messy fight.
Ultimately, it ends up being a 1-for-1. Caps is going to TP bot to catch that wave as Bin was able to secure himself another plate. But you called it, Dracos. Messy, uncoordinated. Mickey not being level 6 there was so crucial because you see him engage, and if the Rel ultimate was available, then yeah, they could have done some serious damage. That could have been the initiation. But again, keep eyes on Mickey. He's going to be the initiator here. The MF hasn't quite gotten into position yet. It's 4 versus 3. He loses a lot of HP. No Rel ult. Not available. There's nothing for Knight really to be afraid of, and he gets an easy kill onto Mickey. But knowing that that mobility is gone, they try to get the chain CC. He flashes away. The ultimates are kind of mismatched as Shun is inside the pit. He's forced to disengage. But Elk, though, expending that flash to avoid the shockwave means that he ends up losing his life, resulting in a 1-for-1 and an even trade of grubs.
G2 happy not to concede the 4th grub. About a 1,000 gold difference between these 2 teams. A little bit more now in the favor of BLG as Knight and Elk really taking over there in terms of total gold. Knight already becoming that threat on the sideline. His companion completed. This is where it gets hard, right? You saw how much damage he did to Mickey. Broken Blade stepping up. Crucially, the chains don't connect. And it's tricky for G2 to navigate, right? They have the wombo combo. They've got the flashes off the major carries. So for the next 3 to 4 minutes, they have a good angle if they can find a fight.
But Bin's been doing a great job on a side lane, right? Like, He has just been permanently playing for plates. He hasn't been overdrawn into fights. Broken Blade spent a lot of time.
On. Aftershock proc. Shun coming over the wall. Hansama crucially pinned. Ulti fall up there, leaving him for dead. They know there's nothing left. BLG just make it look so effortless.
It's an easy pick once again for BLG. They're fighting over a control ward. It's like a 3 versus 4 because Knight had prio in the river. He was able to move first, and even though he wasn't really involved in the play, the fact that that numbers advantage forced that G2 to retreat, allowing BLG to find an easy pick. They're TPing bot, they set their sights on Caps.
Caps, movement speed stairway there. Knight ready to come over the wall. Shun going through it. Shane now connecting. Nice shockwave back, but Elk is there to follow up. Good flash out from Caps.
But BLG have moved from top to mid to bot, moving with pressure constantly across the map. Broken Blade is looking for an opportunity in the mid lane, but BLG are just kind of running rings around G2 in this early game.
It's just so hard for G2 to find a fight on their terms. Mickey is that source of engage. Want to get aggressive here. Counter-strike is there. Mickey now pulling the back. It's a clean combo to kick things off. Knight snapping back, but he's still in the MF ulti. Yike. Finding the kill, crucially, for G2.
A nice combo there from Mickey, expecting the W to come through from Knight. He waits before committing the stun, and then fully engages, knowing that the MF ult is right behind him. Shun now sets his sights on mid.
The pace Shun is playing at in this game, his CS is good, but I feel like I have not seen him hit a jungle camp in 5 minutes. He's been everywhere on the map.
Yeah, rarely do we see Skarners this active in the early game, but Shun is constantly looking for these ganks, looking for these plays, and he'll secure his team a Rift Herald as the Dragon goes in favor of G2. About a 1.3k gold lead in favor of BLG, and crucially, it is coming from the mid laner and the AD carry of BLG.
G2 trying to get some pressure back on the bottom side of the map. You can see the lane economy snapshot. Damning indication of the early game thus far for G2. Not the most massive individual leads, but we'll keep an eye on those item completions. G2 will knock down bot lane tier 1. Expect that mid will be the center of attention for BLG, given the access to the map it gives them with that Herald, but we'll see where they decide to use it.
I was going to say that Broken Blade has TP. Maybe if they wanted to defend top that they could, but instead they're going to concede it. They're going to allow Broken Blade to push in another wave on the bot side. He is almost a full level up over Bin. But of course, Bin being able to catch this wave will close that a little bit. But again, Broken Blade doing a good job off in the side lane as we kind of reset back onto the map. First items being completed across the board. Trinity Force getting closer and closer for Bin. Dragon 4 minutes away, these neutral objectives quite a ways away, which means that these teams likely setting their sights on the cross maps, on the side lanes. You can see BLG already pinging that bot side of the map. They've collectively brought both Knight and Elk into the mid lane, get that mid push. This will allow them to move into the bot side jungle, take full vision control, and set up for this objective. Mickey in response is now making his way down to try and contest, but I think BLG is too late.
Knock up, quick Alistair combo. Broken Blade gonna try to double hop out of safety, but Shun already waiting, and Knight grabs the kill. BLG. This was the team people expected to see the start of the Swiss stage, but here they are. They've finally arrived. They're playing the map beautifully.
And it's so efficient in terms of what they do when they come back out onto the map. They don't bother wasting time sending anyone to the top side. They bring 2 into mid, grab that mid prio, and then immediately from mid move into the bot jungle and then commit onto Broken Blade, who's overstayed. He pushed that extra wave in bot, he stuck around hitting that bot tower for a little longer than he should, and BLG in that small window were able to find themselves another kill and a tower, and G2 can't cross map anywhere because they tried to defend the play rather than get something elsewhere on the map. Another advantage gained for BLG.
And it's tricky as we get deeper into this game because Skarner's getting tanky fast. Early Warden's Mail, such a fantastic purchase against a triple AD comp effectively, as once again now Mickey has been locked up, likely to fall. Crashdown buys him a bit of space, Caps in the area. Will just cost him the flash in exchange for Shun's ultimate, but a positive trade for BLG.
But it's similar to what we saw in the series versus T1. G2 members just keep getting caught prior to objectives, randomly in side lanes. Again, it's BLG that have good setup on the map. They've pushed out top. BBU is catching the bot wave. And so while G2 are scattered, what do BLG do? Put pressure into the mid lane, the weakest point of G2, where they then can't be punished. He's going to be able to get away on the Rift Herald as well. Escort that one to safety. He's just using it as an escape tool. BLG extend the gold lead now to about 3k.
Just so much pressure on G2 now in this game 1. You can feel like it's already starting to slip away. It's not the biggest gold lead. BLG have just been cleaner in most of their plays. G2 are getting back what they can, trading even where they can, but we know how terrifying Bin will be. He feels like a ticking clock stacked against G2. Now though, the setup for G2, pushing the bot wave. Bin, I don't think powerful enough in the 1v1 yet, especially with Broken Blade having red buff, but does at least feel like he can step up and push this wave. Instead, just keeping it here, knowing that it's Broken Blade who has to risk something to walk forward.
Exactly, and so you can see how it's kind of awkward for G2 now. Caps has set up a bit of a freeze on the top side of the map, knowing that there's no objectives to play for, so it's Knight, who in theory is being starved of experience and gold. But the same thing's happening on the bot side of the map. This wave is ever so slowly pushing towards Broken Blade because Bin is getting those last hits, but Broken Blade has to overextend, and both supports now have to come because On is threatening a gank, whereas Mickey has to provide peel.
On just continues to walk up, completely unafraid, knowing his team is closer, advantage of having Elk on the Kai'Sa.
But look at mid lane right now. You'll see Knight wandering around the map because there's not much that he can do. But there's a big difference between a LeBlanc wandering around and an Orianna because of your ability to set up a potential play.
And also, once you knock down that tier 1, look how much of the enemy jungle just belongs to Knight. Anytime mid-wave is in a decent state, he can walk in so freely, so effortlessly, to just threaten. Nocturne out now going in, TP coming into the midst of G2 as well. They're finally going to spot it. Looks like they're going to try to catch out Knight, looking to punish, but On an excellent use of disruption. Should now trying to get involved in the fight. Bin waiting over the wall. Jack, keep your eyes on that counter strike right into 2. Quick flash out from Cap. Holding on for now. Ulti coming in from Onsama, but it's just not connecting the way that they need it to. Shockwave from Caps doing a bit of damage. Mickey taken down. G2, do they want to keep taking this fight? Shun on the run. Health bars low. Knight forced back. A messy exchange overall, but Mickey the only one to fall.
A situation that should have ended in disaster for BLG ends up becoming a winning play. They find a kill onto Mickey. They're able to get out without really expending anything. Look, Flash available still for Elk, Knight, Shun, and Bin. G2 realize that they can't contest this dragon. They've just committed all their ultimates. Yike and Caps had to flash out of that play. And keep your eyes, because the idea is to punish the TP that gets invested. They interrupt On here, but they know if they hard commit, the Alistar, of course, has ultimate. But in this situation, BLG's disconnected. They're isolated away from Knight, so they try to lock him down. A good ultimate from Mickey, but Knight's able to get away. And then look at Shun and Bin on the flank. They actually zone away this backside, splitting the fountain to a really nice shockwave on the front. But Shun and Bin are able to sidestep the ultimate entirely, and they don't get punished for it at all.
And again, I think if Shun and Bin aren't there, Hansama is able to get a better angle on that ulti. That shockwave hitting 3 people, even when it's only Orion on a single item, might have been more kills for G2, but BLG salvaging what could have been a disastrous situation well. G2, you can see the power of the Nocturne, the disruption it can provide, but so far just have not been able to pin Knight down and finish that kill off in the most of the skirmishes they've started.
The thing is, it's really easy to forget that BLG is one of the best team fighting teams in the world. The reason that they were able to dominate, the reason why domestically they were able to win so many series from deficits was because they team fought their way back into games with their standout individual players. And G2 have brought a team fight composition, which has conceded them a lot in the early game, thanks to Shun's fantastic presence in early game ganks. But that's then been further converted into these late game fights where G2 are not being given any proper setup. All of these fights are so uncoordinated from G2. The fact that Mickey didn't have the level 6. Around this dragon, the fight happened before the dragon had even spawned. And G2 are basically relying, waiting on BLG to make that slip up where they can find a good fight. And BLG's just not giving it to them. They're just continuously extending the lead bit by bit. Now it's sitting in an almost 4K gold lead.
And again, credit to BLG. This is a much higher level than they have shown in most of their series previously, right? The PSG series was messy. This is looking much more confident, much more controlled. And it's a reminder that Worlds is a marathon. It is a month-long tournament. And as long as you stay in it, as long as you keep going, you always have a chance to turn around and to show up better. Finally being able to showcase some of what made them so dominant in LPL. And for G2, still trying to find that same footing, trying to find that same form. They saw some success at MSI, but they're running out of time quickly. They can't afford any more miscoordinated team fights or loose engages, because you talked about it. You have the team fight power. You gave up a couple thousand gold to get the team fight power, but now you have to execute better. And that's a tall task for anyone.
Well, the Baron is alive. Dragon is still 2.5 minutes away. You'll notice Broken Blade can't afford to overextend. Mickey caught out.
Battering strike there is going to try to re-engage onto Elk. Immediate follow-up. Clean combo going in! Elk still standing though! He's still alive! The Ignite on Broken Blade going mini and trying to follow! It's a messy fight. Hansama already taken down. Bin is here to turn it back on. Quickly going over the wall. The blast cone does not matter. BLG BLG. Perfection to shut down the combo of G2.
They're able to outplay the fight once more. They thought that they had caught out Elk, but he was able to survive for so long. Broken Blade had to commit the flash to even secure the kill, and it ends up being a 1-for-3 with a Baron to boot. BLG dominating in the first game of this series.
Caps can't even knock down the tier 1 in return. This is devastating. You saw it. They got the combo together. They tried to turn around.
They're going to wait for Elk to respawn so that all 5 members secured the Baron. BLG with once again a dominant team fight. And you'll notice the patient play that comes out from BLG. They don't panic. They realize that the collapse is coming through. And G2, it's another one of those situations where they're not setting up for the objective, they just see an opportunity. Mickey looks like he's getting caught out here. They get the cleanse out from the Kai'Sa, so they think we can engage on this. The shockwave comes through, the damage is good, but then the ulti from Kai'Sa, that self-sufficiency buys a little bit more time as Yike and the Rel falls. Now Hanshammer is isolated, he has no peel. Caps can't contribute anything else. And because that initial engage was tanked by BLG, they were able to win the fight.
But G2 want to up the pace, want to keep things going. Beautiful up from Hanshammer to get things started. This time Elk didn't have the tools that he needed to survive. On taken down as well. G2 trying to delete these Baron buffs as quickly as they can. Knight TPing in off the side. Caps Hanshammer running. Mickey gonna fall here. Sacrificed. A decent play to stall the map, to slow down the Baron push from BLG.
It's a 2-for-2. They end up getting the TP out from BLG, from Knight as well, who's moved towards the bot side of the map. This will give a bit of the bounty gold back over to G2 as Broken Blade secures the top tower, but BLG have set their sights on this bottom tier 2, and I don't think G2 have the resources to stop it.
Counter-strike there, beautiful CC coming through, shockwave there, Hanshammer getting one pop, Caps got nowhere left to go, the chain's connected, it's just a matter of time, Bin on a rampage. BLG taking down the bot lane tier 2 to follow.
I mean, BLG are just beating G2 with their wallets now. They're so strong, they have the Baron. Broken Blade's able to get the tier 2 back, but BLG don't have to stop. The wave clear is gone for G2, which means that BLG can set their sights on the bot lane tier 3.
Knock down the inhibitor, likely to follow. BLG will back away instead. Not wanting to concede anything else. Spot the Scryer's Bloom, know that Mickey is behind them. Calls in the Berlin studio for G2. Down, but certainly not out. 6K. Again, against a composition that should be more powerful in these fights. Feels like a tall task.
Alistair is doing so much work in these fights as well. They respond to the dive incredibly well. And again, like, it's a nice idea. You shut down Elk, you catch him off in a side lane, the TP comes in through Caps, and you're thinking, hey, we get 2 kills initially, but Broken Blade can't join the fight, which means that immediately it becomes a situation where now that Bin and Knight have regrouped in the 3 versus 3, they just lose. They don't have the ability to extend the fight, and you think at that point, hey, actually getting the Baron off, being able to cross-map, getting these strays, all positive plays. But then Hans and Caps overstay on bot lane. They don't respect the ability for Shun and Bin to just dive that as much as they want. They're able to find another 2 kills, and now the bot lane inhibitor is exposed.
And again, G2's composition is a glass cannon. It's unwieldy. You get one shot, you hit all 5 members, yeah, you're gonna win the fight, but the second those ultis are down, Elk, Knight, Bin can tear through any one of the G2 carries in an isolated 1v1. It's difficult for G2. The wave clear the MF and Orianna provides will at least slow BLG down a bit. G2 will have some time to fish for picks as Mickey hunting Bin in a side lane. 250 till the respawn on Baron. Sole point for BLG, but 4 minutes out before that'll be available. Objective bounties up means this gold lead can close relatively quickly if G2 can find a good fight, but it's definitely difficult.
I mean, credit to Shun, right? Coming in halfway through Swiss. I mean, his debut in the PSG game, a couple question marks raised, but they were able to clean it up a lot more in Game 2. And now here in Game 1 against G2, he has been so instrumental in the early game success, finding successful gank after gank after gank.
1-0-11 on the Skarner. And again, when we talk about kind of the difference between Shun and Wei, it's usually what we talk about is like confidence on carries. You know, Shun did not expect him to be the guy pulling out the crazy Skarner games. Not that it's beyond him, right? But you expected maybe a crazy Nidalee game, a crazy AP carry game.
And he's been involved in 12 of the team's 13 kills.
He's been a monster. I think him and On both. Fantastic Game 1.
Yeah, and I mean, so much criticism levied towards On so far in this tournament, given that he has been getting caught out a lot. But, I mean, they've both been having great games. And now it's just a matter of closing things out. Baron is still about a minute 40 away. BLG likely can't just siege as freely as they want. If they collectively group up as 5, they're leaving themselves exposed to the thing we've been talking so much about, which is the G2 team fight. And while G2 are still at this kind of deficit, you still have to respect it, right? As long as the game is going on, their ability to land those 5 ultimates is always going to be very real. And so BLG can continue to play the side lanes, keep the pressure up, suffocate the vision out from G2's jungle, look for picks, look for opportunities, and then look to close out the game that way.
G2 hoping to catch somebody out, but again, the vision really not in their favor. Makes it so difficult for them to find those angles. You mentioned it very early on in the game, Betty, but the poke. LeBlanc at this point in the game, very free to just throw a combo down. The same is true from Elk with these long-range Ws.
That was Shun's ulti there, but it doesn't matter. Elk will still get the mid-tier 2. Bin, pressure. This is exactly what you want to see
for the combo
BLG.
again, but who do they go on? It's a timer now. Yike has to go. It's not going to happen. Just a major cooldown removed.
And that's going to... Okay, no, Bin decided to move away. He actually TP'd over from top lane. I thought he was just going to go for the tower, but I guess he wanted to be ready for the potential fight. G2 buy themselves a little bit more time, but now the threat of a Baron, our observers are showcasing the amount of vision that G2 have, and it is nothing. That Baron is prime for the take.
Knight was waiting over the wall outside of G2's own base, and they couldn't see him until the wave went around the corner. Rogue Blade forced into Mega by the poke from Knight.
There is something ironic about how dark it is for the side of G2 when it is they who are playing the Nocturne.
Yeah.
And notice how BLG are not overforcing the Baron. They could. There's a world where they could start it, and if they're confident enough in the gold advantage that they have, they could use the Baron to force G2 to overextend and turn and fight. But they're not. They're knowing that they're really strong at playing through sides. G2 can't match them in the 1v1s, and so they're just spreading G2 apart, looking for picks. They're chipping away at this tower. Elk got the tier 2 in mids. Bin is able to get the top tier 2. Knight finishes it off. And G2 are just kind of getting desperate. They're having to share a lot of experience and gold, and the gold lead just continues to grow in favor of BLG.
At this point, they're just hoping that BLG misstep because they don't get the freedom to just stand back and poke and harass. They have to commit. Their ability to fight comes from those ultimates, comes from that combo. There's so little left when they don't have that. So Knight and Elk waiting off on the side. Shun as well, the setup piece. And Bin still having a great game and still terrifying.
Now bear in mind, the Dragon is spawning in 35. And BLG have the ability to play through both. Because G2, they want a group, right? They want a team fight, they want to collectively fight you as one, and BLG have the ability to just keep the pressure on sides, which means that Bin can, in theory, solo down the Dragon. You could also have Elk solo the Dragon, while Knight groups up with his team and chips away at your HP bar. And so G2 could try and hover around the Baron and threaten it, but they could just allow Bin to do it isolated while fighting them 4v5 and keeping them distracted while he secures that objective. BLG is really under no threat here, and it's G2 who now feel the pressure with the deficit that they find themselves. Look, Cap still doesn't have his death cap. The poke continues to come through.
Knight freely walking in just to spot them out.
And here's that pressure mounting. Now, Bin is on the Dragon, and the Baron is being started. He doesn't have TP.
But Bin can wait. Wait
And
till
this
they
is the
commit.
thing.
It's not a fast Baron. On around the corner,
Oh.
G2, this is a Hail Mary. Knight taking so much health away from Yike. Popping the Sterix, they can now follow up as well. On in the midst of the entire team, locking up Hansama. Vision getting blurry, but Hansama still gets caught in the suppress. He tries to flash out and he gets caught anyway. He's living for a brief moment. The barrier keeping him standing, but Elk and Knight can start to hunt now. All those cooldowns down, and goes out. They're trying to turn it back. The cleanse is a little bit sloppy, but he buys himself an extra moment. The ulti now to follow. Quick ulti back response. Broken Blade gonna follow up. It's a messy fight. Cap still alive for an extra moment, but Knight's on the way in. Mickey trying to do what he can to peel for his mid laner, but Bin is just now arriving, just in time to watch G2 fall. A double kill to finish it for Knight.
I mean, BLG play it the way they're supposed to. Elk, that was a very ambitious play, but at the end of the day, it still works out. And BLG do exactly what we were just talking about. Create this 2 points of pressure, force G2 to have to make a decision, and they end up demonstrating beautifully how to use their poke. G2 is forced to ulti onto Jun and on the frontline engage. They're able to take their time, and look, the TP coming in. BLG don't want to give G2 anything.
Luckily, G2 able to get the objective down. Yike's flash will be the cost. You highlighted it, Baron picked up another excellent fight for BLG. And it's, again, When BLG were a little out of sorts, there might have been a glimmer of hope. The team fights could look okay. But when you see this proficiency, this patience, using their poke, not giving G2 any cooldowns for free, it's so hard for G2 to play it out.
Yeah, they just let the Baron do the work. Knight takes off the Sterax from Yike. He's very low. Then look at this front line. They're completely safe. On his tank up so much damage. Knight and Elk don't overcommit. Look, they're full HP. They don't really take any HP damage. And then this is where it was super risky for Elk. That was probably a little bit of an overstep. He trusted in the Zhonya's. He's forced to flash out. Broken Blade's able to find the play, but it doesn't matter because the fight gets split up. And on the far end, Knight and Jhin are able to clean up with the arrival of Bin. It's an easy team fight win for BLG.
You could see smiles on the face of BLG. Like, they're feeling good, as they should. This is a level of discipline absolutely necessary when you're playing against a composition like G2's.
2-0-13 for Jhin. He's been involved in 15 of the team's 16 kills. An immaculate performance from him. And now with the Baron buff, BLG can begin their siege again, playing through 2 lanes. They keep Bin in mid lane.
But if BLG overgroup, again, all it takes is one misstep where G2 are able to layer all of their ultimates together.
The death cap now finished could be the difference. But finding one fight isn't enough at this point. You'd have to find multiple back-to-back. And I just don't think that G2 have the damage. I don't think they have the lockdown to really win a team fight.
I mean, who's killing Shun?
Because they've demonstrated they can kill Elk, but like you have to commit so much just to kill him that Knight and Bin then clean up the fight.
I'm pretty sure if we look back at the team fight, that was almost every single ability just for Elk.
Yep.
Who is the squishiest member of the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Look, he has 4 deaths. The rest of the team has 2. It's just that hard.
It's tough. Broken Blade at least able to get a little bit of poke down on the Knight. They're slowing down the push here. Ulti coming out for Yike. Where are they going to go? Click combo coming in onto Elk, but he manages to go invisible for a brief moment. Yike now trying to follow up. Mickey coming in over the wall, but he just gets one shot. The carries do too much damage. Broken Blade is here. Elk goes golden. The timing is good. Knock back into the wall with the wallop. He'll take 1, but BLG are just going to take the base.
Again, G2 succeed in killing Elk, but that is just not enough. On and Bin dive onto the backline. They decimate G2. And in this first game, BLG have dominated from start to finish.
BLG reminding us why they are the first seed from the LPL. A nearly effortless game 1. Beautiful fights from start to finish.